chairman says jump, I jump. I do what I'm told. That's how you stick around.
That's right, that's right. And it's.
The meeting of the Town of Brookhaven's Local Development Corporation. It's Tuesday, April 17th. The following board members are present: Callahan, Rucci, Tally, Mr. Rhodes. Welcome back, Mr. Rhodes.
Glad to be
Ms.
back.
Scheit, Mr. Trotta, Mr. Braun. A quorum is present. Minutes of our most recent meeting, March 26th of this year, have been sent to everyone. Motion to approve, please.
So move.
Second.
Second,
Oh, Fred, you're breaking all up. I don't know if it's me or the system.
I'll
clear.
try to speak a little slower in case that helps. Are there any corrections, clarifications for those minutes?
Fred, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Can you hear
Yeah,
us?
you're breaking all up. I don't know if it's at your end or my end.
Frank, can you hear us?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Could I just take a minute to sign off and re-sign back on again?
Of course.
Thank you. I'll be back to you guys in just a moment.
I think there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Lori?
Included in your package are the annual reports that we have to file with the ABO for Paris, Public Authority Reporting Information System. So there's several reports. The biggest one is the annual report, which summarizes the whole year. Then we have a report certifying our certified audit. Then we have a report that certifies our investments and a report detailing our procurements for the year. Are there any questions on any of the reports? Hearing none.
Hopefully, everybody had a chance to look at it, and we need a resolution authorizing
Yes.
Lori to file.
So move.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Sorry.
Aye.
Thank you. Also included in your package
My timing.
is the operating results for the first quarter for the LDC.
It's okay.
There's not much happening, just our annual revenue, our annual admin fee for the remaining projects that the LDC has. Our expenses are slightly down, and that's really due because we changed the cost allocation to 10% based on the matching level of effort. So we're starting off the first quarter behind about 10,000 for the year. Any questions on that? And lastly, I'll just read you what my standard verbiage is, that all payroll taxes and related withholdings have to be paid timely in accordance with federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been filed in a timely fashion. And that's it. Any questions on any of that?
Lori, do you say that in your sleep?
Yes, I did. I'm still reading and filing. I can say everything.
If there are no questions, I need a motion to accept Lori's report.
Motion?
So moved. Oh,
All those
second.
in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, so the next item on our agenda is our slate of officers, but I just wanted to start out by saying welcome to John. So
Welcome, John.
is,
Good to be back, guys. Missed you all.
back,
Missed you.
Same.
and the slate of officers is in part adding John to the official resolution. And we had some discussion about moving some of the positions around a little bit. Making Marty the vice chair, Mitch the treasurer, Felix the assistant secretary, and then putting John in as a member. So I just wanted to put that out to everybody for discussion.
I think I've spoken to all the parties involved. If there are no questions, motion to approve that, please.
Motion,
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
The next item on the agenda is the governance, audit, and finance committees. Basically, we're gonna add John to those committees, and I just wanted to restate that we're going to have all of our board members on all of the committees.
Motion,
So moved.
second,
Second.
questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Again, motion carries. There's no executive
Why should
session.
any of us be denied any of the funds?
So I don't have anything else for the LDC. If anybody has any other, items?
If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's 12:06. We are adjourned. Next, we'll open the meeting of the Town of Brookhaven Industrial Development Agency. It is 12:06. This is Tuesday, April 17th. And the following board members are present: Callahan, Mr. Rose, Mr. Palling, Ms. Scheit, Mr. Braun, and on Zoom, Mr. Gucci and Mr. Trotta, quorum is present. Minutes of 26 again have been mailed to everyone. Take a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion.
Thank you. Any questions, corrections? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lori?
Okay, included in your package are the draft annual reports for Paris filing. The annual report, which is all of our projects is summarized here. There's also a certified audit. We certify the certified audit, an investment report and a procurement report all included. And I would look for approval by the board so we can file this.
I just want to mention beforehand that at our last meeting, I mentioned that we had not received information from Global Tissue. They did get us everything that we needed, so we received responses from all of our projects.
Motion to permit Lori to file a Paris report for the IDA.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Go Lori.
Timely payment. All payroll taxes and related withholdings have been paid timely in accordance with federal and state guidelines. All regulatory reports have been filed in the timely fashion. And all state regulatory payments, i.e. pilots, have been made in accordance with state guidelines and dispersed in a timely fashion.
Motion to approve Lori's brief report today.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Again, carried. Thank you.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is a presentation by Camoin Associates. Amy, will you I think Rachel and John are in the waiting room. Let them in. And just so everybody knows this, the draft study that they provided was in your packets. And we are gonna, I think, leave it in draft form for a little while in case anybody has any comments or edits that we want to ask them to make as a result of this presentation, and then also as a result of you guys reading through it a little bit further. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Rachel and John from Camoin.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you again. It's been a couple years, but I've been since we have been at this meeting. So thank you so much for having us. We've been working with Lisa consistently over that time, but we haven't been to a meeting. So I'm glad to be here and see you all. As Lisa mentioned, we have been working to update the industry, the industrial and warehouse sector real estate market analysis to provide you all with some clarity around the supply and demand as you continue to make decisions around the types of projects that you're incentivizing, and just to give you all a better understanding of the current market. I'm here with John Walker. He has been an analyst at Camoin for several years and worked on the original analysis as well as this one, and he'll be able to provide you with the presentation today and walk you through some of the key findings, and then we will be happy to answer any questions following the presentation, as well as once you get a chance to review the material. John, are you able to share your screen?
I am. Hi, it's very nice to be here. Thank you for having us. I am looking at that now, and it's not immediately obvious to me where. Oh, how about this one? That's the share screen. I'll try that one.
The one that says share screen.
While John's searching for that, and after this
There we go.
presentation today, and you're, looking at what was given to you earlier, any of those comments should be filtered back through Lisa.
Yes, please do. That sounds great.
And let me try to reorganize.
Looks good, John. Your
Great.
screen sharing looks good.
You all can see this screen. Well, like I say, thank you very much for inviting us back. It's been interesting to revisit this study from 2022. I think that Lisa has circulated the draft report, and all of the materials that I have in this set of slides are drawn from that report. And then there's some additional materials that hopefully you'll find interesting in the report as well. But this kind of hits on the major points of the current draft report. We'll be finalizing that shortly then as well. So, as you know, most of you were probably here at the time. There was an initial report in 2022. And as we go into this update, the first question is, well, what has changed? And what is the same since 2022? Well, certainly, we're still looking at a very strong consumer market throughout Long Island, Suffolk County. Suffolk County has median household income of $115,000 a year. That's 60% higher than the US level. In addition to that, projections going out 5 years are for further household growth running around 0.5%. In the retail sector, consumers are going back to the brick and mortar stores and bringing back demand there. But a lot of the action, of course, is on the e-commerce side, driven by growing and steady demand for overnight delivery and shifting to same-day delivery as retailers work towards servicing that last mile of delivery. Something else I want to bring attention to, it's easy to get focused on the retail side, but let's keep in mind too that manufacturing is a very significant portion of the area's economy and of the elements that drive demand for industrial space. In Suffolk County, manufacturing accounts for 52,000 jobs, which is 7% of the total, and $12 billion in gross regional product. Drilling down into the area of warehouse distribution centers, since the last report, 1.4 million square feet have been built and completed and added to the overall inventory of industrial space. And vacancies have been driven up from 2.6% at the end of 2021 up to 4.1% at the end of 2023. Certainly an increase, but nothing too alarming. 4.1% is totally reasonable rate of vacancies. And most germane to our discussion here, what's happened on the development pipeline? Well, for Suffolk County, during our last study, we were looking at 8.8 million square feet in the development pipeline. That includes things that are under construction but have not yet reached completion, but also the planning side and pre-planning. We were at 8.8 million square feet a couple of years ago. Since then, we've added 4 million square feet, nearly 4 million square feet to the planning pipeline, a 44% increase, up to 12.5%, or 12.6 million square feet. I'm sorry?
Do you want to do questions as we go, or do you want to wait?
Sure. Yeah, if you have a question, let's go for it.
Well, what's your definition of planning? Is it application in or some sense before that?
No. So the way we're working with planning is an organization, could be an investment firm, developer, has acquired some land, has gotten to the point of drawing up plans, including architectural plans, probably looking for financing they have made an announcement that this is the intention to build this, and could be looking for tenants as well.
So, but that is before, so to some degree, that is before they have actually applied to the municipality for permission to build?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And in relation to the vacancy issue, is there a distinction between vacancies in buildings which were built since 2021 or vacancies in buildings that predated 2021?
The number that I presented right here, the 4.1, that's total market, right? So that's going to be all existing properties.
So
new and-
so there's no separate number for vacancies in buildings which have now come online in the last 3 years.
I do end up touching on that in a few slides.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can keep
I
going.
will
There's
hold
a
the
lot of good
question.
information here. Yeah, a lot of good information. Keep going,
Yeah,
Joe.
it was useful going into this. I've had several conversations with Lisa regarding specifically some of the concerns of the organization, and hopefully I hit on all those, and if not, we can do some more questions, and
And I will keep my mouth shut waiting.
any questions are welcome. But what I was just talking about is the recent jump in that planning pipeline. And so let's dig into that planning pipeline a little bit more. Let's see. Come on, you. Okay. Oh, now it goes ahead to me.
Mute.
There we go.
John,
yes, go
John,
ahead.
John, I'm sorry, I was on mute. I have a question. If we could just go back to the prior slide on the vacancy rate again.
Yeah.
The 2.6 to the 4.1.
Yes.
If the information that you've gleaned from this, and you'll touch on in other slides, that growth in the vacancy rate, will it distinguish movement from existing buildings into the new buildings, or is it the existing buildings remain occupied and the new buildings that are being built, the vacancy rate hasn't reached the maximum yet?
The data that I have and what I'm able to look at includes total occupancy over all properties. On an individual basis, I am able to dig into some individual properties and see what their leasing activity is. But in truth, to a degree, it's space is kind of fungible, right? We have new additions to building stock, and that can mean that a tenant of an older property could be consolidating, moving out of some older property into a newer property. On a net basis, that would not be a change in absorption or demand.
Okay.
And so what I look at is total demand, total occupancy, although the tenants could be shifting the properties that they're in.
Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I'll hold any other questions until we go through the remainder of the slides.
That's all fine. So as I was saying, looking at the current planning pipeline, most of my discussion, most of my analysis really did center around Suffolk County, because as you can see, although the industrial market spans both counties, really the action is in Suffolk County. In Nassau County, there is a little bit of industrial activity going on, but with higher property values and closer to New York City, the focus in that area is much more around residential construction. And we really don't see a whole lot of industrial. By the way, when I say industrial, in this instance, I am referring to warehouse and distribution center. I'm not including manufacturing, just saying industrial is a shorthand. And what we see, like I say, 12.5 million square feet in the development pipeline, 2 million square feet of that is already under construction. All right, and with another 10.5 million in the planning and final planning process. Something of interest too is, although distribution centers, warehouses can to a large degree be interchangeable, there are distinctions in terms of the functionality and the pricing of development and the rental rates. And so I do throughout keep this distinction, but a lot of the, for the most part, I think we're fine just focusing on the total. That said, we noticed that about half of the planning activity or the development activity, 45%, I guess, is in the distribution center side as opposed to the warehouse side. So this is a great deal of development in the planning, in under construction and in planning. Raises the question, what's going to happen with this going forward? And something that we can use to get a sense of what's going to happen going forward is if we look at what has happened to those most recent projects that were constructed since the last iteration of this analysis. Remember, we had 9 million square feet in the planning pipeline when we did this study 18 months ago. What has happened with those? Well, for the most part, over half are still sitting in planning. They haven't moved, no change. At the same time, more than a quarter, 28%, have advanced to construction start or even completion. Notably, though, another 15% have been abandoned. Or they've changed scope. And when I say change scope, I don't mean like a marginal tweak. There's some that you know, it was 100,000 square foot warehouse and it's been revised to a 8,000 square foot retail. That, significant change of scope. But essentially what we were looking at in our planning pipeline before has properties from that pipeline have moved out of the current pipeline.
John, a question on the abandon and change scope.
Yeah.
When they changed their scope, was the building already constructed or
No.
it was in the planning stages?
That's right.
They changed their plans.
That's right. On paper and announced in the press and working with brokers, they were saying, yeah, we're going ahead with this. We have big plans for this 100,000 square foot warehouse. And after reconsideration, they backed off those plans and revised them.
Do we have any evaluation on the 57% as to how much, if any, of those are actually applications that have gone in as opposed to those that were just announcements?
I do not have that offhand.
Because that would be a very interesting number to have.
Yes.
Because a company that has put in an application to a municipality and then stopped or didn't pursue it is significantly different than one that made an announcement and nothing has happened in that regard.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm just taking some
that's
notes.
interesting. John, I can take notes of questions as they come up. You
Yes.
can keep going.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a very interesting question. I understand how it would be something you would be curious about understanding, and we can look into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So that is our planning pipeline from 2022. A little over a quarter of it moved ahead into construction and completion, and it raises the question, some things have moved ahead. How well have they been received most recently in the market? And in particular, Lisa mentioned that there was some questions around pre-leasing of development activity. And I was able to dig into some historic data and found that looking at properties that were over 50,000 square feet. In 2020, we had 2 properties completed that were over 50,000 square feet, 400,000 square feet total. At the time that they opened their doors, at completion, they had 400,000 square feet leased. They were 100% pre-leased. Since then, from 2021 to 2023, we've had another 8 properties completed. Again, over 50,000 square feet, 1.8 million square feet. At the time each of those opened their doors, in sum total, they added up to 750,000 square feet of pre-leased space, 41%. What do we see going forward this year for 2024? Looking at that planning pipeline, we have, you know, certainly for those that have moved farther towards construction, anticipated year of delivery or completion of construction. Well, now we've got 13 that are planned to be open this year, totaling 2 million square feet. Currently, of those, we have 300,000 square feet pre-leased for 16.5%. Clearly not close to the 41% we saw over the last previous years. There is several, you know, there's 3 quarters left in the year. I'm sure the hope for those developers and owners is for a good deal of pre-leasing. It's not surprising that a spec property would come to market and not be totally leased.
Well, let me ask the question in that regard. You indicated that your definition of pre-leasing on the 2020 category and the 2021 to 2023 category, those 10 buildings.
Yes.
Having a tenant on opening day.
Yes.
Not before opening day, on opening day. Not when it's discussed, not when it's financed, not when it's approved.
That's
but
right.
when it's built.
That is right. That is what I'm referring to as pre-leasing. That's exactly right.
So that's different than the 2024 number. Unless the how many of those 13 are actually finished with construction? Because
Those are
that would
all
be
under construction,
timetable.
under construction slated for completion in 2024.
Right, but they have not
Open their
completed.
doors, right,
That's
so there's
right.
still time.
Right, so we're
right.
looking at different time periods in comparison. The
Right,
first two were, I'm opening tomorrow, I got a tenant
Yeah.
today. The next ones was, I'm hopeful to open in October. I may or may not have a tenant, but I may get a tenant
Yep,
now in October when I open.
you're exactly right.
Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
one-
it is a little bit of a different comparison, but it was a good way for us to kind of start to think about the pre-leasing, but you're right, there's still time for that number to go
Yes.
up. It's not as dire as it kind of appears here.
Right.
That's what I wanted to make sure of. I was
Yeah.
comprehending the
Yes.
charts correctly.
Yep.
Yeah,
John,
Yeah.
is there a way to compare apples to apples? Can you compare 2020's 100% completion and 21 to 23's 41% completion to the same standards that you have, that we're not analyzing 2024? So 2/3 of the phase of construction, what was their leased space, so that we can really see what that 16.5% means. Does it mean that 16.5% is on the same track as 41.2% and 100%? Or is it truly only 16.5%?
That's an interesting question. We can look into it. I doubt that is information that is really easily available, but we can certainly take a look at that. I'll make a note of it. I
Yeah,
understand, I understand the concern.
That number is 16.5% is scary.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But the assumption would have to be that 16.5% number will go up between now, today, April 17th,
Right.
and the dates on which these 13 projects actually open.
That's exactly right. Yes.
the number will go up.
And that was one of the caveats that I was trying to make, when I was first talking about this, is that this is very early in the year, right?
Right.
We still have 3 quarters left.
But even
Will
if we,
that 16% be making it up to the 40%? It's unclear. What I do know is at this moment, we're looking at the 16.
what if we use 41% and say that's the standard, because that is projects that are completed and that's where they were, maybe that's a better, we cut it off at 23 and use that.
Right, well, that's my point, is that I'm not distinguishing the 16.5%, that is a real number, obviously. But it is to some degree
Different.
a different number than the other ones, and
Yes.
it's not a complete number. We assume that there will be some leasing activity for completed projects between today and the day they open, and that 16.5% number will go up. Now, will it reach 41? I don't know the answer. I don't think anybody knows the answer,
Right.
but it will be higher than 16.5.
And
It
presumably.
will be higher than 16.5. I will tell you, yes, we are 3 months into this year. These properties are slated for delivery this year. There's uncertainty, right? And to tell you the truth, that's kind of the whole theme of the project and the presentation is, yes, there's uncertainty. Looking at that 16%, that's what we see today. What do we
Right.
expect to see going forward? Something higher.
Yeah.
Will it
Yeah.
will it
But
be
we're
maybe
almost at the
that?
halfway point. I mean, we're
If I
June.
could just offer an observation, even if that 16.5% struggles up to the 41.2%, that means there's still 59% of the square footage of 2,045,000 square feet that's vacant. And that's still a scary number, even if we can get it to,
Yes.
even if we can get the 16.5 to 41.2.
Right.
Felix, that doesn't take into account the 50, whatever, 50, it's almost 60% that's vacant from the 21 to 23 numbers still. 'Cause-
Yeah, let
but
me
that-
add on to that. Let me look at the note that I have at the bottom. That was at 41% on the day they opened. Subsequent to that period, as of first quarter 2024, another 500,000 square feet has been leased in those 8 properties. It has boosted them to 68% occupancy today. So that's certainly an improvement, 68% occupancy. It also sounds to me like 32% vacancy.
Right.
Yes.
Which the more buildings you build, the
Yeah.
vacancy is gonna change
Yeah.
because it's.
Let's keep going. There's a lot more good information
We do
here.
have some more material. I don't know, maybe you all cleared your afternoon, so we're good to go.
Go ahead.
So this is kind of what we see in that flow of development activity. But let's back up a little bit. Come on, you. Let's go. And take a look at where we stand in terms of total market dynamics. This is kind of a snapshot as of the end of 2023. We were just saying, is the situation quite dire with that, with that pipeline that's coming online and not necessarily pre-leased? Well, no, it's not, especially because we got to remember there's an 84 million square foot total market, right? And so a couple million square feet coming online, it's certainly significant, but it happens in a much larger context. And that's why, even though we've had significant deliveries and we're still just standing at a 4.1% vacancy rate.
Is Brookhaven numbers in the Suffolk County numbers?
Yes.
That's right. Yes, they are. Yes. So let's see. This is what we see, like I say, at the end of 2023. I want to back up again and just take a look at how we kind of got there in terms of demand and supply growth. All right. And if we look over the last 12 years, the green, we've got new construction deliveries, right? Earlier decade or more ago, we were averaging, these are annual averages, 400,000 square feet a year through the middle of the last decade, 120, 170,000 square feet. And then over the last few years, we've had a significant jump in deliveries. But over that period, average deliveries have been just under 300,000 square feet a year, or for the last 12 years, 3.5 million square feet cumulative. What's been going on the demand side, however, earlier over that 12-year period, we were running in 300, 350,000 square foot range. We had the pandemic and exceptionally strong negative absorption. That drove those vacancies up. We were down around 3%. That drove those vacancies up around 4% or above. Subsequently, we've had a rebounding of demand growth and once again driving the vacancies back down, and then some additional supply back up to 4%. So some bounciness definitely on the absorption side, somewhat on the vacancy side, but in truth, those vacancies have moved in a relatively narrow range, 3 to 4.5%. So based on the current development pipeline that we've been looking at, and then looking at what we see as some historic levels of demand growth and supply growth, let's get into the question of what do we see as prospects going forward. We have that big fat pipeline of planning projects. Is that excessive? If so, by how much? And can demand going forward really absorb all the planned activity? To try to get my arms around that and help us understand that, I've put together some possible scenarios of what we could expect to see going out the next 5 years in terms of likely development activity, how much of that pipeline is going to be built. In terms of the demand side, how strong of absorption can we really expect to see? So in these scenarios that I've lined up, they are based on historic patterns, what we've seen with supply and demand growth. And the whole point of them is to not necessarily come up with a definitive answer, because as we were just talking about, there's a lot of uncertainty and risk, but just kind of to bound those potential outcomes. Like I say, just get our arms around what we're really looking at going forward. On the supply side, what we saw from the pipeline in 2022, do you recall that? Of that 9 million square feet, 28% advanced to construction start, but we saw another 15% abandoned. So what can that mean looking forward in terms of reasonable expectations? We've currently got a 12 million square foot pipeline. If we play a what if game, what if 50% of those projects in the pipeline go ahead? We know that over 18 months, we saw nearly 30% going ahead. Over the next 60 months, might we see 50% go ahead? I think that seems pretty reasonable. Conversely, we also saw 15% abandoned over the last 18 months. Looking out the next 5 years, can we see, a larger percentage of that being abandoned? In terms of, yes, I absolutely think so. What if 25% is abandoned? That would kind of put a cap on the possible new development around 75% of our pipeline. So like I say, what I'm trying to do here is get our arms around what are we really looking at? What are some reasonable expectations? So for these scenarios that I'm talking about, let's think about what happens if half to 3/4 of the planning activity goes ahead. That's the supply side. On the demand side, this is that picture that we were just looking at. Remember this 350,000 square foot demand growth annualized earlier in the decade before that. We had that big negative absorption. More recently, we've had some pretty strong, demand growth. Over that 12-year period, including that big negative, we've averaged 145,000 square feet of demand growth annually. Over the last 3 years, it's been quite a bit stronger, approaching 400,000 square feet. So what can we expect going forward? Well, once again, let's kind of figure out what we think might be reasonable. On the low end, can we expect demand growth going forward next 5 years to be equal to what we saw over the last 12 years? I don't think that's an unreasonable expectation. I label that a conservative expectation. More recently, we've seen approaching 400,000 square feet annually. I call an optimistic scenario would be one where we get 350,000 square feet annually. And I will tell you that in conversations with some brokers, they've said that the start of the year over the first quarter, close to 150,000 square feet has already been leased. You know, early in the year, early in this 5-year period, but just to get a sense, you know, it does not seem unreasonable that we could be seeing something similar to what we've seen in the recent past.
John,
So
when you
all of
say,
this, sorry, John, just to kind of set the stage for the next slide there. So all of this, those last 2 slides are really trying to help us understand, like, what is the potential vacancy that we might be coming into? What is the likely supply? What's a reasonable kind of low and higher end of supply that will be built? And then on the demand side, what's a low, kind of medium and high range of what will then be demanded? So that we can compare those and run some scenarios similar as we did in 2022 to be able to come up with some ranges of potential vacancy rates so that you all then can see, like, if these different scenarios come true, what is the likely outcome, and how do we feel about, you know, are we comfortable with those levels of vacancy, and what does that mean? So that kind of just helps set the stage. John did a really good job outlining it all there, but just to kind of summarize it all together before we get to the next slide here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, hopefully, kind of the exercise we're going through here is pretty clear. In these scenarios, like I say, let's get our arms around what is the potential outlook over the next 5 years. If we go ahead over the next 5 years, build 50% of that pipeline, 6.3 million square feet right here, and we go with absorption levels similar to what we're seeing under our conservative, moderate, and optimistic projections, what would the market look like 5 years out? Well, under what I will call labeled best case scenario, half of the development pipeline goes ahead, and we see some nice, healthy absorption totaling 1.8 million square feet. In that event, we are still seeing vacancy rates going from the current 4.2% up to 6.7%. And that would also leave us with just shy of 6 million square feet of vacant space.
Mm-hmm.
As under these scenarios, though, in slightly less robust demand growth, we can see that we could easily be closer to an 8% vacancy rate under the pipeline of 50% construction with less aggressive absorption.
Yeah.
Now we switch over to that stronger rate of growth in of inventory with the stronger development, and sure enough, we're seeing some higher vacancy rates. Even the most optimistic, I mean, if we're talking about 9.4 million square feet being built and the strongest absorption being 1.8 million square feet of absorption, that could leave us with 9 million square feet of vacant space, up around 10% vacancy. And of course, you know, prospects get worse as we imagine those less optimistic patterns of absorption.
Mm-hmm.
John,
So
that
this
number,
isn't, oh, sorry, go ahead, Felix.
excuse me, that number of 9,034,000, I'm sorry, I missed, what is that reflecting?
This would be the amount of vacant space.
Not the amount of built-out space, the amount of vacant space that
That's
had
right.
already been built out.
Right, we've already got some vacant space, right? And in this instance, what we're looking at right here is we have some current vacant space. We could add 9.4 million square feet. And we could absorb 1.8 of that. We would end up with the 9 million square feet vacant, or a 10% vacancy rate.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. I thought we were looking at building 9 million square feet and having about a 10% vacancy rate.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that's not clear. Yeah, these numbers are supposed to reflect the vacancy rate and the square footage.
Gotcha.
That's vacant.
Mhm.
Got it. Thank you.
So
And I'll also, sorry, John, just to add, this doesn't give us clarity on what type of space is vacant. So it doesn't necessarily mean like all the new buildings are gonna have vacancies. It might end up being, as we might imagine, that some of the less desirable properties are the ones, the smaller properties, just as we talked about in the previous analysis a couple years ago. It's those older buildings that will feel the most pain of an increased vacancy scenario. So I just want to, that's maybe seems obvious, but I just wanted to say it out loud.
I
Well,
will
thank
add,
you.
actually, I will add to that, Rachel, that I think that especially to the extent that some of these are some of those larger distribution centers that are quite purpose built and not as flexible in terms of being able to add multi-tenancy clients. I think they could be at risk as well.
Yeah, good point.
And so, regardless, like I say, we're looking at some higher vacancy rates, certainly some potentially very difficult situations for owners. What happens in some of these scenarios? Well, there's competition for tenants. The rental rates get bid down. That's certainly a benefit to the users, but from the owner's point of view, that's certainly cutting into profitability. In some of the worst case scenario, could lead to inability to service debt and foreclosure, things along those lines. That can end up depressing property values, and to the extent that municipalities are planning on certain tax revenue streams, could certainly have an impact on them. Another element that I think is worth considering is in these strong development scenarios, once these places are built, it really precludes using those properties in some other fashion, right? Once a million square foot warehouse is built on a property, it's not, doesn't have a future use then as residential space.
John, a question for you. When you were speaking to the various brokers on getting the leased out space, was the space that was leased out by a number of tenants, or was it a small group of tenants just occupying more space?
Right. Well, Felix, let's go on to our
Yes.
next slide.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that lead in. Yeah, so we've been looking at a lot of numbers, right? And but a significant portion of this study has been beyond reviewing a lot of data and also talking to brokers and commercial real estate brokers and also developers. And several messages have come through that I thought I would mention here. One is that from brokers' point of view, potential tenants are becoming more confident. And I think I mentioned for the first quarter, demand growth has been quite healthy.
Why are
What
they
has done well? Was there a question?
Yeah, why are they more confident?
The potential client tenants.
Correct.
I didn't get into that specifically. Well, I guess my recollection is they were saying that, say a year or two ago, there was more hesitancy to bite down on taking a lease. I think that
Like recession talk, I think was a lot,
Right.
there was a lot more concern about recession and is this all just like a follow-up of COVID last year? I think people are feeling much more confident in the overall market recently.
right,
Okay,
right.
thank you.
What has been doing particularly well are those tenancy spaces where tenants are taking 20 to 100,000 square feet of space in a multi-tenant space, right? I heard from a couple of brokers saying that a lot of that new space coming online, it's a very, in some of those distribution space properties, there's a lot of technology involved, and they are some of those 35, 40-foot ceilings, very wide spacing of pillars, very expensive to build. Very expensive to build, very expensive to lease. And more than one person commented that given that a lot of potential tenants are balking at some of the prices that they're seeing on some of those expensive places, and they anticipate a price correction coming down the line. An item that we've talked about is that especially some of the distribution centers, some of the newest areas are somewhat purpose-built, and they're only really servicing a portion of the market, meaning those very large Amazon, Wayfair, some of those large organizations running large distribution centers. And those are the items that are properties that do not really lend themselves to that multi-tenancy occupancy. And then finally, kind of what is driving a lot of this is a shift, an observed shift in the financial side of development. In particular, much more of a role of venture capital firms coming in, purchasing large tracts of land. And the observation has been some of those have acquired that land, put their plans together, maybe even done some site work, but then have gone on hold due to some of the uncertainties in the market.
Excuse me. The issue about the very large distribution centers not tending to be able to be transformed to multi-tenant or
Yes.
context. Am I to assume when a facility like that is built,
Yeah.
a very large, that they already have a one tenant contracted with, or that company is building it in that regard for themselves?
For the most part, these are spec buildings. And yes, they might be able to line up an Amazon ahead of time, but a lot of the space that Amazon uses is built as spec. And some of the items in the pipeline now do not have a tenant, some very large properties.
So it's not necessarily that they already had a tenant to build it with in that regard.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
It's like the line from that movie, build it and they will come.
So,
Oh,
that is the hope, right?
you can see him.
So we've kind of gone over a number of things. Let's just do a little recap.
On the right side.
Demand has proven over the last several years, demand has been very strong. Investors and developers have come in with some very robust plans, pushing that planning pipeline up to 12 million square feet or more. We took a look at some of the supply and demand projections and, some scenarios as to kind of what ifs. And I think it's pretty clear that looking forward, we're definitely going to be seeing some rising vacancies over the next 5 years. The question is, how significant are those going to be? I think there's certainly an a possibility that they could be reaching double digits. And finally, kind of the whole point of our exercise is around this uncertainty, caution is definitely warranted on the part of people looking at the market and concern over speculative industrial development in Brookhaven and beyond. That covers the items that I had planned to discuss. These pieces that we went over are all drawn from the report that we have available as a draft, and we'll be finalizing soon. And we've had a few questions along the way, but I wonder if there's some more questions at this point.
One that came to mind to me was when you showed the pipeline early on in one of the slides, and I think the difference from the previous one to this one was 3.5 million square feet. But some of the original pipeline was already built and developed, so the increase in pipeline really is greater than that 3.5.
Yes, you're right. It's essentially a flow, right? We had the 9 million square feet in 2022. Some of those projects went ahead and were completed. Some of those we saw were deferred or abandoned. Nevertheless, we still saw a net increase of 4 million square feet. So it was not just 4 million square feet added, it was a net increase that was backfilling some of that was completed or abandoned. You're right.
Questions from the board?
So basically, proceed with caution.
Could have led with that, I guess.
All right, John, Rachel, thank you very much.
Mhm.
We'll get back to you through Lisa for any other thoughts,
And they will get back to us with the answers to
and then
some of the questions that we raised.
and then if everybody's satisfied, we will go ahead
Okay.
and print the final version.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Right. We'll finalize.
Wonderful.
Hey, thank
Thank
you
you all.
everyone very much. It was very
Thank
nice
you.
meeting with you.
Yeah, great
Have a good day.
questions. Bye-bye.
That was a very informative presentation. Thank you for your hard work.
Wonderful. Thank you
Thank
all.
you for your participation. Bye.
I need a motion to go into executive session.
To discuss employment and potential
Litigation. Thank you.
So
Motion.
moved.
Second?
Second?
Okay. If I need a motion to come out of executive session,
So
Motion
moved.
made.
and there was no action taken in executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, sorry, I don't know, I lost my pen, and I'm gonna have.
I got one.
Okay.
We all got
We
one.
got lots of pens.
I thought we had extras too.
Probably do.
All right, sorry, oh, you have an extra one. Okay, the next item on the agenda. Okay, I'm just gonna take one thing out of order. I just wanted to mention that we have the possibility of hiring an intern. And so I just would like to get a resolution, approving hiring an intern, potentially at the rate of $20 an hour, depending on what her internship allows.
You wanna make that consideration?
So
You want to
moved.
include her name?
Oh, her name is Micah Avery.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and I know that we have some guests here who I apologize have been extremely patient, so I'm gonna take a couple of things out of order. I just didn't want to forget the intern because it wasn't in my agenda, so. So Dan is less patient than you? Okay, all right, well. Dan being less patient than. He's gonna go first, apparently. So on the agenda, under the resolutions, is a request that we received for the Air Station Road Logistics Center and Air Station Road 2 project. To remind everyone, this is a spec industrial project slated to go on the north side of Sunrise and on the east side of Station Road. You extended their application acceptance in November, I think, and we received a letter the other day asking that we extend the must close by May 15th, 2024 caveat. The request is to extend that to August 31st of 2024. That's the request on the table.
So place I should stand or?
Just stand so you can see yourself.
As long as you can see yourself on the computer screen.
There
yeah,
you go.
then You're good. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Chairman. Dan, for the record, Dan Deegan, with Porcelli Deegan Trine in Uniondale, New York. So this board's familiar with this project. We first received an application for this project back in January of 2022, a long time ago. The board accepted the application in February of 2022. And ever since that time until February of 2024, we've been going through the land use approval process of the town of Brookhaven. The good news is that we have now finally completed that process as of February of 2024, just less than 2 months ago. And when we were here before this board last time, obviously this board was considering the moratorium, which is in place. And it was kind of agreed that we would be grandfathered in to the extent that as long as we closed by May 15th, which was the date, I guess, a day, by coincidence, the day that the moratorium was going to expire, that we'd be good to go. So we didn't anticipate at that time that the land use approval process would take as long as it did. There was also a request by the town that we go back before the board and make it clear to the planning board and to the public that this project does contemplate the IDA. We did that. We made it clear on the record to the satisfaction of the town and their representatives. From the day one, this project needs the IDA or it doesn't go forward. We've invested millions and millions of dollars to get to this point. The practical situation that we're in now is that we believe we've submitted everything. We had to update the application because of the passage of time that's been submitted. There were some reports that needed to be done and some financials to be submitted to the IDA. We submitted everything, and where that leaves us is that assuming everything goes perfectly smooth and this IDA is inclined to vote yes, that we would not be in a position to get final approval until May 15th. Now, it's just about impossible. I don't want to say impossible, but very difficult to close on the same day. And also it's presumptuous. I don't want to presume that you're going to do a yes vote on the 15th, but a lot of work has to go into a closing in terms of negotiating the documents, providing due diligence items, working with Nixon Peabody and getting it prepared for closing. And to kind of do that in the face when we don't even have an approval yet is not practical, to say the least, and arguably presumptuous. So what we're asking for is a short extension of time. I think we've done everything that we've been asked to do by the town, certainly on the zoning process. That was not difficult. It was not easy to get to where we got to, but ultimately the town did approve this and the support of the building and the process and the project, but the project doesn't take place without this board's approval. So we're asking for a very short extension. I asked for August 31st in the letter. If this board's inclined to give some other period of time, so be it, but that's what we request. As I say, we've been going along all along with the necessity of having IDA assistance. Otherwise, this project doesn't go. We've spent millions of dollars in reliance to get to this point. Nobody asked for this board's, very small indulgence. We don't think we're asking for a lot, just a short period of time to get us to the position to close, assuming that the public hearing and the board approves at the May 15th meeting. So that's pretty much the request. You answer any questions.
Questions from the board? I think the feeling of the board at this point is that we will not give an extension. We think there's sufficient time. Have the public hearing closed by the 15th. Nixon Peabody's already said that it will do everything in their power to make sure that happens. And we'd like to move forward on that basis.
Okay, so I guess I would ask that in the event through items beyond our control, that May 15th, this board does not vote to approve, that we can have further extension if something comes up that's out of our control, or maybe even out of the board's control. Because that, what you're saying is assuming that you guys vote yes on May 15th, that we can close. That's a new meeting that we get ourselves logistically prepared with the negotiation of all documents and everything else beforehand. And I just know from experience that that's kind of a perfect line of events that have to take place. And if something happens, I don't know what's gonna happen in the public hearing.
Well, we have a board meeting that day, so.
Yep.
I think what the board is saying, close by the 15th, and we do have a board meeting that day. So they're not gonna give you any assurances here.
I think the feeling is that, we'd like to move the project forward. I think everybody feels that way. I think there's been obviously some delays on a variety of circumstances, some under control, some not. But I think the feeling of the majority is that they don't want to move the May 15th date until they absolutely have to move the May 15th date. At the moment, May 15th is still a possibility to accomplish everything we need to accomplish and you need to accomplish to get it done. We'd like to see if that's possible. If it's not, we can make that determination on May 15th. If something extenuating happens, if we can make it happen, and our friends from Nixon Peabody have assured us that they will do everything possible, and Lisa has the authority to schedule a public hearing any day between now and May 15th. That meet the publication guideline requirements, but she will do that in that context. So I think the best thing to do is, let's see if we can do it by May 15th. If for some reason we can't, then on May 15th, we'll make whatever decision the board wants to do then. I think that's the feeling of the majority of the members.
And the board has always been very pro-business,
Yeah.
pro-project. We understand the
So-
amount of money that's been laid out here.
Yeah, and we understand that, and we don't want to give the project up, but we also want to get it done.
Yep. Okay,
So,
Can you send them an email?
it is what it is, so we'll accept that. We'll get to work with Barry and.
Good.
Staff, get this.
yeah, let's get it done.
Dan?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, I could do
Right.
that.
Frank?
Yeah, Dan, you mentioned that the project wouldn't go forward without the, the IDA benefits. Can you give us an indication of why that is?
Well, it's basically because, I heard the whole report from Des Moines earlier. In order to do a project like this, there's a tremendous amount of underwriting and assessment of risk that has to take place. And a part of it is, the likelihood of attracting tenants, what rents you can charge, what the cost structure of the project's gonna be going forward. And that's been underwritten for the last 2 years in terms of the millions of dollars that have been spent. And ultimately, tens of millions of dollars are gonna have to be spent actually to build this. And it's all done under the premise that there's going to be a certain cost structure, which includes the pilot agreement and the sales tax exemption and mortgage recording tax exemption savings. Without those savings, and I think history has proven itself, and I'm sure you've heard it from many other developers, these projects don't pencil out and they can't take the risk of going forward into the marketplace with a cost structure that's much higher than it is in New Jersey or some of our competing states. And also something that's, higher than our, the other similarly situated, projects like this. As you heard from Point, I mean, these type of projects are the 21st century economy. And, we don't want to handicap ourselves as a region by not embracing these to a certain extent. Ultimately, debt and equity are making determinations that this is a place where there is demand and it's worthwhile based on, Aries, my client in particular, has a full stable of tenants across the country and even the world that they will, at the appropriate time, bring to this property and show it to them. They can't do that because of experience in their business model. They don't, these tenants will not commit to a building that's not even built and not even, it's just still on the drawing board. They want to see the building actually under construction and completing before they will make a commitment to a lease.
So
And,
at this point, you don't have any tenants because the building isn't built. Is that what you're saying? They won't look at it.
And that's the business model. That's the business model with these big companies. And I understand if you have a local developer who's saying, trust me to build this, but we have a track record of doing this for decades. It's one of the most successful companies in the world doing this, that they build these buildings and they have their, a pre-identified, cadre or, stable of existing clients and tenants, they call them clients even, that are companies that they will show this to once it's under construction and being built. So they do have confidence that this will work. They have to be competitive compared to its similar projects in other areas. And that's where the IDA comes into place to make it as competitive as possible. Obviously, the construction is going to provide, it's a big injection of money into the economy here, just in the construction alone. It's also going to create a lot more, even with an IDA pilot, a lot more revenue to the taxpayers in the district than that is being generated today. So this is all positive economic development. And the risk ultimately, I heard the Des Moines report earlier, the risk is on these big companies that are saying this is a place we want to deploy our capital. And, I understand you guys have to do your job and make sure that, you're not incentivizing things that are gonna become a disaster, but I don't think that they're going to. I mean, there's gonna be state-of-the-art facilities that, if this region doesn't, embrace, we're gonna fall behind. We've already fallen behind in a lot of other areas because of our high cost structure here on Long Island. And, in terms of manufacturing and, we have companies leaving here all the time. We have to have this kind of building stock here if we're gonna remain competitive. And, these guys are willing to take the risk, not just my client, but other clients, and build these type of things. I think it should be embraced. But that's my opinion. I understand you guys are doing your job and, take this stuff very serious, which you should.
Thank
The
you.
only thing down to that is that every large, or the developer for every large building that's come in here has said the same thing, that people don't believe we're gonna do it. And we can't talk to anybody until we get a shovel in the ground and steel is up. And there are empty buildings because the steel was up and nobody showed up.
But the other thing I would say about that is that you're looking at a very small window, even the Des Moines study, I was looking at these buildings, these are 50-year plays. These are.
Oh, dear God.
Felix,
we can hear
we can hear you.
No, but
I
I'm
don't
saying,
think he can hear
I was
us.
thinking if a company like this builds a building and it's not like, these are institutional type investors and developers who are looking at a long run here, that they've got to develop the stock and, somebody said if they build it, they will come. That's how you attract companies here that are going to provide. And as you also heard from the Coin Report, there is a demand because of the changing economy, and Long Island has one of the most robust consumer bases here, and the demands of the consumers are to have, quicker delivery and lower pricing, and all these type of buildings, I think, adds to that. As long as it's in balance with the local zoning code. I mean, this is compliant with zoning. That's been approved by the town. So, I'm not saying these things should be built all over, but anyway, that's enough. I think I've said enough. Sorry.
And I think,
Wasn't towards you, he can't hear us. That's
Oh,
what
is that right?
It's just frustrating
Yeah.
And
because
his
he's.
I
computer.
understand. Dear God.
That's what I'm thinking.
and Dan, I think that's why
It's
we want to
frustration
get,
over technology.
Yes.
and I think that's why we want to get this done and we want to get it done now. So let's see what we can get done between now and May fifteenth.
Get to Barry and
And,
Barry.
we want the project to
Whatever you guys gotta
succeed.
do, 100%.
So let's get it done.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you very
Made
much.
that
Yep.
commitment to you.
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, and on to the less patient, or, no, more patient, sorry, I got my patient.
I was only kidding, I was actually.
I missed your humor. The next item on.
He's
The next-
ready.
So in keeping with taking things out of order, the next item on the agenda is we're gonna consider the Middle Country Meadows and Over Bay, those resolutions. Included in your packets is a letter that Peter sent, touching on actually 3 projects, but I think we should probably take them one at a time. So the first one is Middle Country Meadows.
Well, those two are.
And Over Bay,
Yeah.
they are
Yeah.
effectively the same, but do you wanna?
No, I think it's really all in the letter, and basically, these properties are controlled by Jim Tunis. So for estate planning purposes, the structure was a little bit more complex, but when you get down to it, he controls the company both in terms of the shareholder interests as well as in the general management of the company. And we just wanted the agency to recognize that, and understand that it doesn't affect his commitment to, well, Over Bay is already completed and a successful project, and his commitment to completing the rest of Middle Country Meadows, which is already in pretty good shape in terms of completion.
I think,
Just wanted to-
Peter, I
see
think
any
our,
questions on that.
yeah, I think our problem is it's not that, and for state planning purposes, we understand it. The fact that if you transfer over 49% of the interest in an entity, you need our permission. And as far as I know, or Lisa knows, that never took place.
I actually have a little different read on that. I believe that when we're doing Middle Country Meadows, not Over Bay, but Middle Country Meadows, we did provide that information.
The docs.
Yeah, so that's, but be that as it may, at this stage of the game right now, we're coming to clean everything up.
How do we clean that up from a legal standpoint? I don't know.
I think the documents and the request here is to consent to the sale. or the transfer, not sale, but the transfers that did occur previously under the documents, and it would just be sort of a retroactive approval.
Board have any questions on those two projects?
I would move the resolution.
Two resolutions.
I would move the two resolutions.
Second.
Further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay. The next item is an application for the preserve at East Mauritius. This is a senior housing project slated to go on the north side of Montauk Highway in East Mauritius. It's 70 rental units spread out among 13 buildings, a total of 137 plus thousand square feet. It's about over 22 acres. There is also a 1,200 square foot community building, an outdoor recreational space. The application indicates 10% of the units will be affordable, 10% will be workforce. It's approximately $25 million project. And it also includes an advanced treatment sanitary system. The request is for mortgage reporting tax exemption. Oh, shoot. Sales and use tax and 15-year pilots. I forgot to do something. It's gonna create 3 full-time equivalents. Funny when things just pop into your head. So that's the application that's in front of you. Peter, did you want to add anything?
I did. We got an MRB report. We submitted that MRB report.
It was in your packets.
In connection with the application. And so the economic effect of this project, in the construction phase will be approximately $10.5 million in wages. And those wages will result in approximately $28.7 million economic impact on the town. The annual jobs during the operation of the project will generate approximately $1.5 million in direct, indirect, and induced income, and about $4.5 million of total economic effect on an annual basis in the town. So the construction and operation be a little less than 100 million through the term of the pilot. I'd like to introduce Jim Tunis. Really, it's to, you know him well, but I think he really wants to give an update on where things are with Middle Country Meadows and discuss in a little bit more detail this new project. Jim?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, board, for listening to me. So I've been building 55 and over communities for.
Just move over a little bit. So if you
There
can
we
see
go.
yourself on the screen, then yeah.
Then they can see you.
See myself?
yeah.
Okay, for over 20 years, and it's been with the help of the IDA that, you know, we've been able to successfully build these, and it's nice because we give seniors an opportunity to stay on Long Island. And, you know, it also becomes a little bit of a socialization item with the residents. We go a little bit extra. We provide, you know, bagels and coffee in the morning. And it's not about giving them free bagels. It's about all of them coming together and talking and discussing. And through the IDA, we've been able to do this. We're also one of the first ones that are putting basements in our apartments for storage, which is important because most of the seniors that are coming out of these homes, they need a place to store their furniture and so forth. And instead of renting out another facility, we provide a basement that they can store their stuff. It's not for living at all, it's for storage. I'm just passing around. This is Middle Country Meadows. We are on our last few foundations that are being poured on this project. And again, with your help, we were able to sustain the project and move forward. As everyone knows, construction prices are absolutely through the roof. And recently, and even as of last week, interest rates are going through the roof, and they're really high right now. So it's because of you that I'm able to build a project like this, and we've already got a ton of leads. We're starting to sign leases and occupancy. I'm hopeful to be June 1st. So, just wanted to talk a little bit about delays. You know, one particular, I'm just gonna talk about one little item. We got all our building permits, we're ready to go. We put in an application to the state over 2 years ago to put a traffic light on Middle Country Meadows. And we couldn't put the plan in until we had final site plan approval. So we put the plan in, and it took them over 2 years to get the approval from the state for the traffic light. We finally got the approval in December. By the time we put in all the requests and everything, we put in our order in January for the traffic light. Now, I'm actually happy to tell you that the traffic light is being delivered tomorrow. It's not gonna be installed and operational for about another 2 weeks, but just one small little smidge of, you know, delays that can happen to a project of this size. So again, you know, I want to thank you for, you know, making this happen. And when the seniors move in here, I'm a senior. It's just very nice. It's very helpful to keep Long Island's people on Long Island. And again, you know, when they move out of their house, it creates an opportunity for younger people to buy a house that's no longer needed by them because nobody's living there. So again, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. And thank you.
I'm surprised you haven't finished one of the units up front. I could buy it fairly frequently to use it as a sales office almost, or a demonstration of what it's gonna look like.
Yeah, we are opening it up in about 2 weeks. The problem was utilities, and we had no electric and no gas. And it took us, they're putting in the utilities this, like right now, Hawkeye is, again, tremendous delay. We asked for the utilities back in August, and they didn't arrive till March. And that's the problem. It's just delaying the permanent. But to answer your question, I'm actually Monday, and we're starting to lay out all the furniture, because Hawkeye is there. They're on site right now, and they estimate in 4 weeks my utility will be turned on.
Talk about the financing from Riches a little bit.
So the financing from Riches, we're working with a broker, Great Bear, and they're putting everything together, and they want to go out to market, but the way that the deal is structured, it just won't work right now. So without relief, we won't be able to get a construction loan, and you know, but we won't be able to do the project without relief. So I'm hoping that we have the same item that we're doing the basements. We're gonna, you know, get seniors to move there and hopefully store their stuff down there, but that's where the financing is right now. We have cleared the property because of the northern geared back situation. I don't know if everyone's aware of that. So anyway, just that's what I need.
But through a broker, not your usual sources.
Well, we are talking with some Long Island banks. Again, it's not really ready to go out to market yet. Once, you know, hopefully we get approval here, and if we do, we'll be able to go out to market. And I will be talking to Long Island banks. As a matter of fact, I've already had preliminary discussions with Valley Bank. I do a lot of business with them, and we've also talked with Connect One and Dawn, all Long Island banks. So their capital is just a company that I've had ongoing discussions with, but ultimately, we haven't signed an agreement with them. But ultimately, I think it's a good project for Valley, and I'm hoping Valley will do well.
I think the position of the board is that they'd like to defer this till next month, the approval that is. For a couple of reasons. Get everything buttoned up as far as the transfer of the ownership of the other two projects, and just for them to have a better understanding of the structure, which we understand why it was done, but the overall structure of you and the entities involved in these various projects.
It sounds like you've approved the prior transfers.
Yes.
Yes, we have.
And I assume you use the same structure for this one.
Yes, it will be, but I do have a partner in this. It's, you know, how we have it set, so, all right, but we have 70%.
Yeah, I think everybody just wants to be comfortable with the ownership standpoint.
Sure.
That's why we approve the initial two resolutions to ensure that those projects were comfortable. I think everybody is supportive of the project. I think they just want to be a little more comfortable in that regard, and that's why we would ask Peter to work with our friends at Nixon Peabody to get all of that done, and then we will take it up at the May meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
I think if anybody wants to go and see a traffic light get delivered. Probably give you the schedule. It's not something you see every
I
day.
just don't want to be under it.
Yeah. No, just thought if you have time tomorrow.
So I just wanted to hand this out, I'm sorry, just, this is, I was looking through a scrapbook a couple of weeks ago and I found this and I just thought it would be fun to hand to everybody. This is an IDA meeting from 1967. It was actually before
I
the
missed that
corporation. I'm sure you
I was
can know,
10.
and Annette, you probably know some people in this picture.
Yeah, I was born in 57.
Anyway, 67. So anyway, just, to lighten up the mood a little bit. I figured I'd give you that.
Thank you.
So
What was the date on that?
I'll work with Barry.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
you.
We will.
Mineola at 3:00, so I will.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Take care, Jeff.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
You need a note?
It's at Chaminade, so I probably need a note. Okay, everybody have a good day.
Okay.
thank
See
you.
Yep.
Okay.
That Jim is-
She's Farrell.
Oh,
He said
oh, okay.
67. Okay, so.
This committee's say vacancy, so maybe one.
So I know that a couple of people have to leave in a couple of minutes, so I'm gonna just
The vote on.
take a few. Do we have to vote on that? Did you guys vote on that? What do we have to do?
No, we don't,
You're
no, we.
tabling it
Right, okay.
next time.
Well,
No
we-
vote.
right, we-
I already
right.
put it on my
It's
agenda.
on the agenda for next month.
Yes, okay.
And Barry, if you could reach out to Peter to make
Yeah.
sure everything gets done, that would be helpful.
So-
Yeah, I'll give him a call.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I've been asked to take a few more things out of order, so, we have a resolution on the table to adjust our, resolution appointing our council.
Somebody care to move that?
So move.
Second.
Second,
And the name of the council?
That we're adding.
Harris Beach.
each.
Hold on, Felix.
There is a second?
Yeah.
Second.
I think Frank.
Mr. Pally,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Trotta,
Yes,
Mr. Grucci,
Yes,
Callahan.
Yes.
Ms. Scheit.
Yes.
Mr. Juan will abstain. Motion carries.
Okay, and I was also asked to take, what else did I take out of order?
The moratorium.
Thank you. I also wanted us to
Once in a while, I'll
discuss
use
the moratorium. As you were aware, it expires, on May 15th. So I just wanted to know if you guys wanted to take any action now, if you wanted to wait until May 15th.
I would put a resolution on the table that we extend the moratorium to 12/31/2024.
I think while I have concern.
Well, you need a second first.
Marty seconded. it.
No,
Yeah, Marty
okay.
seconded. it. While I obviously have some concerns, I think it's important that we use this period of time for the governance committee to look at setting rules or standards, whatever word we want to use, with regard to how we are going to treat new projects as they come in, so that people don't get caught in the middle of different things again. We did one thing for one person and something else. We should set a standard of rules for warehouse and distribution centers so that people are aware of what they can or cannot get from us before they come here in that regard. So I would urge us to use that period of time to accomplish that.
And I'm going to schedule a, governance committee meeting. I think May probably would be good while we're it's fresh-ish in everybody's
Yeah.
mind, and we have a few items to, discuss at that governance committee
Fine.
meeting.
I think that, you know, what you said, Mitch, is extremely important, and in light of the study that we're just going through, you know, I think it'll be very helpful to help us to make some of those decisions.
Right, good, okay.
Yes. Okay,
We need a vote.
can we have a vote?
You made, Fred made
Yeah,
a
you have to
motion.
call the vote.
Oh, do I said,
All
second?
in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I think I can get through the rest of the stuff pretty quickly. The next item on the agenda is Williams Realty. They have a, Williams Realty Holdings, they have a subtenant CAD/CAM. CAD/CAM has already been in the building, but they're taking a little more space and renewing their lease. And one of the subtenants, NP Drafting, has moved out. So this is, they're accepting their subtenant application and then also doing a resolution to, approve them being in the facility, extending their lease.
And we're happy with what it should be. Okay,
Good.
motion,
So move.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is Shoreham Solar Commons. Howard and I have been working with them on this project. The application that was included in your packet, I just wanted to show you that, you know, there is movement on it, but we need a little bit more information, as we actually received a follow-up letter last night, but it was too late to include in the packet.
Lisa, we do have someone on. I don't know if you want.
No, okay. Thank you, though. So what I'm suggesting is that we postpone the acceptance of this application until everything is ready. Howard's gonna continue working on them, and I think we should extend the time for them to complete this process by, I'm gonna say 60 days.
Sure.
Sure.
Howard, that's enough, you think?
Yeah, and I suspect so. If we need a little additional time, I think, you know, I would request it again.
So this would be through July 2nd?
No.
No,
60
no,
days
today
and-
from April 17th.
No, I put it for May 2nd.
No, it's from February 2.
Okay,
So,
so
but
60 days.
From May 2nd though, right?
Right. Yeah, do it till July.
My math is any good. 150 days from February 2.
To our July meeting, that's
July
right.
I don't know what that date is.
Whatever the date
Why don't
is.
we extend it to the next meeting? Why don't we extend it to the July meeting? Wouldn't that be better?
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Oh, he's in now.
Is that what you said?
Yes. How would you have a?
I'll move it, so
Did you
second.
hear that?
Second.
Did you hear that?
In favor?
Aye.
Because it's a delay.
It's an echo.
Yeah, I was not working.
The next item on the agenda, welcome, John. We have to add John to the slate of officers, and like the LDC meeting, we discussed moving some positions around.
Should list them for this.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would make Marty our vice chairman, that would make Mitch our treasurer, and Felix our assistant secretary, and John being added as member.
Needed Reza.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And the next item is adding John to governance, audit, and finance committees. And I just want to state again that we're going to have all board members on all committees.
I'll move that one.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
The next item on the agenda is organizational resolution number 15. That's our banking resolution. And what I'm suggesting is that we add the vice chair position as a someone who's authorized to sign.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is a request we received from American Organic Energy. They have requested that we extend their completion date and sales tax exemption to June 30th of 2026. It previously was June 30th of 2024. They are not going to be completed for
2026?
2026.
Do we know?
2
what
years?
Stage of construction they're in?
They've done some site work, but they haven't done any.
This is the organic,
Yeah,
Or
Ah.
digester.
still hanging in there?
Yes.
so far. No reason not to extend it though, right? I'll move that one.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No indigestion reported?
Indigestion. Oh, ironic that Mr. Curry left. He had another item on the agenda. So
It
HO.
looked like he had to be somewhere, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did say.
I did.
Yeah, So they have asked us for approval to refinance. They're not requesting any new benefits, so it's just really, just requesting your approval.
So moved.
Second,
All in
as
favor?
the only
Aye.
other person
Aye.
besides
Aye.
Fred, who remembers Randy Hudson and HOP.
Well,
One of our first one, and this is the second project with
Yes.
HOP, the other one terminated.
Pretty big.
time ago.
Years ago.
Yeah,
yeah.
We were both in high school at that time.
yeah, I was left back. I had-
The next item on the agenda is on the Commons at Rocky Point. This is just an update since we discussed this at the last meeting. There's no action to be taken, although I apologize that it's in the, I thought there might be a resolution. So no action, it's still a work in progress and it is being, worked on.
Negotiations are continuing.
There you go.
There you go, Mitch, that's a good one.
Okay. Skip
We
over.
learned that in law school.
Okay,
Very
two,
important statement.
two items left. We're getting to
They're
the
doing
end of
fire.
this.
Thank you for your patience.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we touch on everything.
We
Okay,
have to
so,
make it really long for John's first meeting.
yes.
Trial by fire?
Yeah.
Can't say we didn't warn.
Sure.
So the next item on the agenda is a letter. It was included in your packets. I just want to bring it to your attention that we got from St. Joe's. Many years ago, this agency participated, helped put together a scholarship fund at St. Joe's. Every year they send us a letter outlining what they've done with that money. So this is just the annual update on it, but it really is a nice reminder of.
What we did was we took the fees, the closing fees, and gave it back to them in the form of scholarship. which you can't do today.
Right.
It was a nice thing at the time.
Oh, in the, okay, they.
And they've continued to award
Yes,
scholarships.
yes.
Oh, that's nice.
And,
Yeah.
and
Very
award
good,
us to
nice.
it.
Oh, yeah.
Very nice, very nice.
They're not allowed to do it, or we're not allowed
No,
to do it?
we're not allowed.
We're not allowed to do that.
State law change.
It was a long,
It
this
would
was
be a
a
nice
long
thing to
time
be able
ago.
to do today.
Yeah.
The last item on the agenda, I got something kind of late yesterday, that LIBDC has officially announced their Montauk Conference is going to be October 9th through October 11th. And as we have in the past, they asked if we'd be interested in sponsoring again. In the past, we've sponsored at the diamond level, which is $5,000. And I'm just putting that forward if we wanted to sponsor.
I would add my recommendation for that.
Same.
Yeah,
Something to-
Yep.
that's a nice,
Move
it.
right before.
Oh. So, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I will.
Or it's on the board, right?
It does overlap CPC's annual luncheon, unfortunately.
It does, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, sorry to hear that.
or bookends.
And if anyone's interested in going, just, let us know and we will work on getting everybody registered.
Want to mention something?
Oh, and Fred, Amy and I went to Stony Brook the other day and had an excellent conversation about how their economic development department and this organization should be working together more closely. We've had a lot of starts and stops over the years, but they have someone who's working specifically with manufacturers and there seems to be a lot of synergy. So our Amy and their Amy, the Amy's are gonna be
Two
working
Amy's, huh?
together on making sure that the businesses that
Trouble.
we support realize that Stony Brook has services that can support them. In addition, of course, we're gonna continue the conversation to make sure that when incubator companies are getting ready to graduate, that they know they can come to us and we can help them. We can help ease that transition, like out of their parents' basement, kind of.
Great.
Maybe in the fall, put together some kind of a joint meeting.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that would
yep,
be,
we-
yeah, that would be good.
We-
Yeah.
We also, I almost forgot about that piece. We also talked to them about, we've done this in the past, we just haven't done this in a very long time. Having a lot of our companies come and have the Stony Brook folks do presentations so that the businesses know that there are these services available and hopefully make some connections and get some of our local businesses working directly with with the team at Stony Brook. So we're gonna work on, those three initiatives.
I'm delighted that once I got out of the way, everything.
Emery, I'll tell you what, we've had these conversations with them before, so I feel good that it's gonna, take off this time, although we have had these conversations before, and I felt good
Just
then
to the
too.
side, there's a guy there, and I started smiling, I looked at him, I said, pardon my smile, but as I look at you, I'm listening to Jimmy Carter. And he said, funny you should say that, I have a picture at home with my wife and I, with Carter and his wife, and my next door neighbor has Carter's tractor. So, but he was dead on with the
Yes.
speech.
Yeah, but it was a good meeting.
Would anybody else like to raise anything else?
Think with it.
Hearing none.
Only if we're gonna have dinner.
Hearing crickets. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Thank you, Frank. Thanks, Phil.
Bye.